This story was told by the Rabbi Gorevich, who was um, the emissary of the Chabad house. He's the head of the Chabad house in Lyon, France. This story must have happened 50 years ago, 40 years ago. He got friends with a Jew. A Jew came to his Chabad house, and this Jew was a businessman, an entrepreneur, and he decided a revolutionary idea that he was going to make a school for hotel management, and that was going to be like on the first floor or whatever, and all the other floors it's going to be a hotel. So it's going to be a hotel, and you'd be able to learn hotel management on the job. It was sort of a revolutionary idea, and he got all sorts of loans from the government and loans from people, and he made a big grand opening and invited, all the honorary people that came there, the minister of this and the minister of that in France. But before he did, before he made the grand opening, or it could even be before he went ahead with the idea. So Rabbi Gorevich took him to the Lubavitcher Rebbe to receive a blessing. So he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe to receive a blessing, and the Rebbe gave him a blessing. It should be with tremendous success. He said, but it's very important that you put a mezuzah on every door of the hotel. Now, a hotel, this was a hotel that had 100 rooms, let's say, I don't know, for instance, 100 rooms in it, which means buying 100 mezuzahs, and every mezuzah, let's say, costs $100. So that's $10,000. A lot of money. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, you should do it. You should do it. So he bought really nice mezuzahs. So it cost him a little bit more. It cost him $15,000. And that's only on the hotel rooms. Then you have to put mezuzahs on all the office rooms and all of this. So, and it cost him, let's say, $20,000 to put the mezuzahs up. A hefty sum of money, but he did it. Anyway, somehow or other, it didn't succeed. His idea was a great idea. It was a lot of fanfare, but there was all sorts of economic changes in France, and people didn't have money, and whatever it was, people stopped going to hotels, and it didn't succeed. And year after year, he started to lose money. And for whatever it was, the people, I guess, they went to his school, but they couldn't pay. They really didn't have money to pay, so eventually they didn't. So he got into big trouble with the government. He couldn't pay his debts back. And the government foreclosed, but also they suspected that he had stolen the money that they gave him, that he had embezzled all this money because they had given him substantial loans. And they suspected, let's say $50 million. I'm just making up these numbers, but let's say $50 million loans. And where's the money? He said, I can't pay it back. So they started suspecting him. So they sent someone to audit the place. They closed the whole place down, put boards over it. No one can come in, no one can come out. And they boarded it all up. And came the auditor. The auditor came, and he was like a really mean-looking guy. A mean-looking big guy. He didn't even say hello. Where are the books? He said, hello, my name is, where are the books? He said, okay, get out of the room. Nobody. And he sat in the room and he audited. And the more he did auditing, the more he saw something really was wrong over here. Something was going wrong. Couldn't figure out what it was. He audited. Anyway, after the auditing was finished, there came the trial. There came the trial, the big day, and he comes to the trial and he doesn't know what to say. He hasn't got any, he says, he couldn't bring any sort of substantial proof to show what he really did with the money. And the prices had all changed. And however it was, he was in big trouble. And they came to the day of the trial, and this beady guy, the auditor, was the prime witness. So the judge said, it was a closed trial, I guess. So the judge said, okay, can I hear the the prosecution? So people came, they said that he made big parties and he advertised, and he must have spent money on he went to vacations, he did these other things, which is true, he did. So, well, what about your what about how much money was in the how much profit you made and everything like that? He didn't know what to say. So they called the auditor up. The auditor took this, and this fellow, the Jewish guy, that he figured that was it for him. The auditor was, he was so, such a not nice person. I'm not. So the auditor took the stand and he said, I went through all the books and I really thought that something was wrong and that he embezzled money, but I looked and I understood that what happened was just a freak chain of bad luck. And that I went through it carefully and I really had to check and really had to see. But after a lot of work, I accounted for all the money, and it was just, one misfortune after another. And I think you should invest more money in him. I think that that it has a chance that it'll succeed. It was so the judge heard that, and he said, "Okay, not guilty." And he even put a recommendation that the government should fund more, should give him more money, give him another chance, and they did, and it became successful. It came back on his feet. It became successful. A year or two after the trial, so this fellow, the Jewish guy, the entrepreneur, he gets a telephone call, and he says, "I want you to meet me in such and such a place. So it's an abandoned place." Who is it? You'll find out. So he goes. Who is it? It's the auditor. And the auditor says, "You're probably wondering what happened, right?" He said, "I don't want you to tell anybody about this meeting. If they find out that we're meeting together, then they'll think that we worked something out together." He said, "You're probably wondering what's happened." He said, "I went into the office, I looked at the books, and I realized that you were really a crook, that you really had stolen a lot of money. There was no logical way that so many millions of francs or whatever it was could be accounted for. Couldn't be accounted for." And I thought to myself, but on the other hand, let me take a stroll around. I looked up and I saw there was a picture of this rabbi. He had a picture of Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I looked at the picture of this man and I saw his eyes, were so kind and so wise and so good. I thought anyone who has a picture like that up in his office, he can't be totally bad. He can't, with a picture like that looking at him, it couldn't be that he stole and he lied and he embezzled. And so I decided, I started thinking, I couldn't figure it out though, because it just didn't work out. It didn't pan out. There was so much evidence that you had, embezzled the money. But this picture it just sort of shook me up. So I decided I'll take a walk around the hotel. So I walk around the hotel and I noticed that on every door was a mezuzah. You put a mezuzah on every door. Now I'm Jewish. Said, I don't look Jewish. I don't act Jewish. I don't even want to be Jewish. I was in the Holocaust. I was a young boy. And my mother and me were the only ones that survived. Or maybe his mother didn't. Anyway, his mother said it's a bad thing to be a Jew. Or I decided on my own anyway to be not. And I met with my wife. She's the same thing. She was a survivor. And we decided anything as any vague reminder of Judaism, we're going to, because Judaism is just a curse. Being a Jew, you get killed. Jew, you get pursued. A Jew is a bad thing. So we're going to keep away from being Jewish. And so that's it. I have nothing to do with Judaism. I don't know when Shabbos. I don't know when any of the holidays are. Nothing whatsoever. I saw the picture of that man on the wall, and it sort of shook me up a little bit. Then I saw all the mezuzahs on all the doors. And I remembered that when I was young, we used to have a mezuzah on the door. And suddenly it all came back to me, that, I'm a Jew. And if this man puts a mezuzah on every door, he must be devoted to something above. He didn't do that just so that he could be a thief. There must be something over here, even though it does say that a Jewish thief, before he steals, calls out to God. But nevertheless, this had an impression on it. So he said, I saw mezuzahs on every door. I thought maybe I'm mistaken. I went back to the all the papers and all the and I looked through it and I looked through it and suddenly I realized, oh, I was looking in the wrong way. I was looking a little bit too severely. Suddenly I started to realize that not only are you right, but I was not so right about you and about myself and about Judaism. And that's why at the court case, I changed my mind and I told you differently. And that was the advice that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave him, that he should put mezuzahs on every door, and that's what saved him. Have a good day with Mashiach now.